Norwegian TV expose Israeli spokesman David Mender. Does anyone else hate this account? This account gives me the worst vibes in the universe. Is this guy like an anti-Semite? Is he doing like the Jackson Hinkle thing? What's up? Like this, I don't know. I don't trust this guy one bit. Not even remotely.
Right now,
I'm not asking about the Rafah will end in a slaughter, the UN warns. Tell us, how are you going to evacuate all these people?
in the same way that we've done in the past.
That didn't work very well. You told people to move to what was a safe zone, then your forces would end up bombing that area. Are you going to follow the same formula?
So again, I think that's a misrepresentation of this war. We're after Hamas. We've got no problem with ordinary Gazans. I won't be sharing with you our battle plans. They're being discussed right now.
I'm not asking about the battle plan, Mr. Mansour. So I'm asking, how are you going to evacuate 1.4 million people out of Rafah?
We will do the same as we've done in other parts of this harsh military war. We move people out of harm's way. We've already acquired, there's been multiple reports of shelters which have been acquired, safe zones where people can move to.
We've also seen people with white flags in plain sight.
No, seriously, like where? What shelters have you acquired? It's the Gaza Strip. It's incredibly small. What do you, where? Like, what do you mean?
Being shot by your forces. We've also seen people in so-called safe zones being bombed. So we've seen your forces kill people on the run from your bombs.
Remember the World Kitchen people who were bombed over and over again over the course of like nearly an hour as they moved from car to car? That was in a safe zone.
Well, over the past 6 months.
So again, I would say to you that we feel we are the most humane army which has ever existed in living.
Thanks, man. That's your yeah, that's true. Man, your handlers have given you a very convincing set of talking points to repeat, you know, to the camera there.
Memory. We've done more to protect civilian lives. Where there have been, Yama, this is important. Let me.
I am a surgeon, Dr. Ha. We are the most ethical army.
Let me share with you.
You even shot your own hostages.
Right.
That came out
where
running
there have
alive,
been
waved flags, and your soldiers
an extremely terrible occurrence that was.
So how are people in
where
Gaza
we have
supposed to
made
feel
mistakes?
Safe? How are they supposed
where
to
we
feel
have
safe?
made mistakes, we investigate, we wait for those results, and we adjust.
Only the Baton Rouge was more ethical. Yeah, exactly. You know, it's assembling a list of the world's most ethical armies ever. Yeah.
Our behavior accordingly. That's what democracies do.
1 week into the war, your army spokesperson.
By the way, have there been any like mainstream stories of IDF military personnel being ousted or tried or charged or anything like that for the innumerable strikes that have happened in unambiguously civilian areas, or the tens of thousands of civilians that have been killed? Just anything like that, like at all?
And Daniel Hagari showed the world a virtual 3D model of an alleged Hamas command and control center, which stretched several stories beneath the largest medical facility in Gaza, the Shifa Hospital, which you know very well of.
Red Barrel Room, right? The Red Barrel Room, yeah. The one with the Red Barrel Room. The one that the IDF was able to overtake by cleverly targeting the Red Barrel Room, thus causing the chain explosion that destroyed the complex.
Why haven't you shown any proof of such a command center?
Again, Yama, this really line of questioning really shocks us here in Israel.
Yeah, well, you know, asking us for any proof of our claims, frankly, is just offensive. It's anti-Semitic, to be honest. You know, very Hitlerite, I gotta say.
Well, because we've shown the world media, many journalists have been taken to those tunnels. We've seen those bulletproof doors. We've seen the cells.
Built by Israel, yeah. But how does that prove it's a command center? Remember when they invaded, they took the hospital, and immediately afterwards, America and the IDF were both like, oh, wait. Actually, they're real command centers down in Rafah.
No, specifically with Shifa Hospital, what you've shown the world are abandoned tunnels and shafts and weapons your forces claim were found inside the hospital. that does not prove that Hamas had a 3-story underground command and control center under the Shifa, a claim Israel has used to justify the attacks on.
Yeah, I have talked about this before, but in reality, one of the main ways the Israeli government is indiscriminately killing people while avoiding any potential culpability in the line of command is that they are using so-called AI algorithms to find targets, meaning that, and the purpose of this is not to increase the efficiency of the strikes. The purpose of this is that you can then blame you can then point to it and go, oh, well, the AI determined that it was, rather than having to like make an argument. Basically, it's a system for obfuscating culpability. That's the point. That's the whole point.
On hospitals all over the Gaza Strip.
I'm quite disappointed at this line of questioning, and it's not just from you, because we face this unreasonable burden of proof of the horrors of Hamas strategies. We've shown you tunnels.
Hamas has not.
I know this is clipped, by the way. This has been clipped deceptively to cut off that bloviating pig, you know, and listen to this guy. So I can't really talk about where it gets cut off. But
Never denied they had tunnels under Gaza. That's an open secret. But you're claiming that they had a command center under the biggest hospital in Gaza. You use that as an argument to lay that hospital in ruins, and that's why it's a question the international press has to ask you. Where is this command center under the Shifa hospital?
Asking questions is, of course, the right thing to do for any journalist, but we have produced evidence of terror tunnels underneath.
Terror tunnels? Terror tunnels? Sounds like a ride at an amusement park.
The hospital. I apologize, Yama, if it's not enough for you. I apologize for the fact that we found RPGs in an intensive care unit. I apologize for the fact that we were fired on from the maternity ward. And I can tell you one thing, it wasn't the midwives that were firing at us. We know we've killed at least 13,000 terrorists, armed terrorists. I remind you again.
They don't know that, by the way. They don't know that. I know the estimate right now, it's probably, we say about 30,000 people. I think it's around 35,000 people have been killed. In reality, it's probably a lot more. There was a lot more hesitation to use the Hamas Gaza health industry numbers back when we were earlier in the genocide, but now that the total number killed is probably a lot higher than actually being reported, like a lot higher. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if it's well into the 6 digits at this point. The apparatus, the structure for counting the dead in Gaza is just not there anymore. Well, like, not even the health ministry can't meaningfully do that anymore. Like, it used to be there was at least some ability to line the corpses, to count something, but now, like, even that has fallen apart. It's almost impossible to know. Yeah, they're finding mass graves. We don't know what has or hasn't been counted. The doctors have been killed. The hospital's blown up. There aren't even places to do the counting in a lot of places. I have no idea. I couldn't even begin to guess how many have been killed. But now that the total number of dead is almost certainly much higher than the Hamas backed Gaza Health Ministry reports, everyone seems fine using those numbers. Now, as for how the IDF has determined that a third of those killed have been terrorists, well, you got to trust them.
How do you know that you've killed 13,000 terrorists?
Oh, thank you.
Because they were firing at us.
So did you do a head count?
Yes.
So this is a verifiable fact, according to you.
I don't say that we have their lists. I don't say
So this is a lie. He's just saying that. There's no evidence of this.
we have their names, but we have killed 13,000 combatants.
Yes, but it's just a number, Mr. Mensur. It's just a number. We have.
Keep in mind that we have tons of evidence of them consistently referring to people as combatants when there's no evidence they actually were. Like, there are so many women and children who have been killed, you know, like, they'll just say anyone they kill as a combatant. That's the default, you know?
Never seen any concrete proof that backs up this number.
So I'm a spokesman for this government. I'm a spokesman for this government and the Israeli people. And I'll tell you right now that we have killed 13,000 terrorists.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's very compelling. Thank you.
We have executed the gold standard when it comes to firing and directing our war at the terrorists and getting civilians out of harm's way.
You say you've set the gold standard. Your critics would say Israel is waging a genocidal war, according to UN experts. Israel finds itself in the docks in the International Criminal Court of Justice, which says there is plausible reason to believe genocide is being committed in Gaza.
Even the U.S. State Department is circulating internal memos from about half of its bureaus discussing like the complete uncredibility of Israel and their failure to adhere to international guidelines for humanitarian rights with the weapons that we've given them.
The EU says Israel is using starvation as a weapon against 2.2 million Gazans.
Yes.
Doesn't really sound like a gold standard.
Even the IDF has no clue. They set up zones to kill anyone who enters. Yeah, this is from Haaretz as well. Yeah, Israel created kill zones in Gaza. Anyone who crosses into them is shot. And a lot of these kill zones aren't even like marked properly. Like they just kill people, you know? The Israeli army says 9,000 terrorists have been killed since the Gaza war began. Defense officials and soldiers, however, tell Haaretz that these are often civilians whose only crime was to cross an invisible line drawn by the IDF, you know? You could literally just be like a 16-year-old boy who's like moving through the rubble because you want to see if you can find the remnants of your parents in the building that you were forced to leave the other day, and you just get murked out of nowhere, and you get like listed as combatant, and they're like, whoop, another terrorist down.
Executed the
Says Israel is using starvation as a weapon against 2.2 million Gazans. Doesn't really sound like a gold standard.
So let me take those apart, because there's a lot in that question which you just asked. On genocide, I would point you to the fact that a genocide was committed against my people, indiscriminate killing against my people. You know, we, the Jewish...
Wait, are you talking about the Holocaust, which was a genocide, or are you talking about October 7th, the event that I've never heard of before that I'm about to be educated on?
People, we recognize evil when we see it.
Oh, that's great. That's a very gold standard, most ethical army in history, by the way. We know evil when we see it, you know? What does that have to do with anything? Literally nothing. Literally just, oh, genocide? Did you know that Jewish people have been genocide? Oh, I did know that, actually. I'm a student of history. Thank you. What does that have to do with what we're talking about?
We've been very, very clear that it's a terrible war. It's a dangerous war.
Really?
We've lost 606 of our soldiers in this.
That must be rough. You know, really reminds you what they're going up against, that they've killed so many tens of thousands and they've lost 600. Really a nice reminder on the unconscionable imbalance. Like the battle between the United States occupation forces and the Taliban was more straightforward than that. Like this is more one-sided than that. This is insane, you know? Like Jesus Christ.
War, but this country is united on its war aims, and we will be successful because, you know, we don't have anywhere else to go in this country. You know, there is only one Jewish...
I notice you didn't answer the questions that were asked of you. You're just going back to the talking points. I know, again, that this is cut. It's possible he did answer it. They're cutting in between bits here, but I think it's pretty clear, even from the cuts of the responses, that we are seeing what he's like and what he's saying.
State in the entire world.
And WHO says the figures from the Gaza Health Ministry, Hamas's health ministry, are reliable, that they even passed international scrutiny in previous wars. In fact, if you look up the numbers, in the wars in 2014 and 2021, Israel's and Hamas's casualty numbers were almost identical. Why would suddenly they lie in this current crisis and war?
The health ministry does not differentiate between a civilian combatant, which is a tragedy. We say that very, very clearly.
Civilian combatant, you say? What was that? Excuse me. What do you mean by that? Could you clarify?
In previous wars. In fact, if you look up the numbers, in the wars in 2014 and 2021, Israel's and Hamas's casualty numbers were almost identical. Why would suddenly they lie in this current crisis and war?
The health ministry does not differentiate between a civilian combatant, which is a tragedy. We say that very, very clearly, and a terrorist. We do. We do.
You don't. But also civilian Civilian combatant. All right.
The UN says these numbers coming from the Hamas Health Ministry are reliable. There's no reason to doubt them because several times this health ministry during this war.
Is that just a dude with a gun or whatever? No, civilian combatant, his term just means civilian. But everyone the IDF kills is a combatant to them. Like they don't differentiate at all. Israel commits daily stuff that would haunt the Obama administration for weeks or months after. Like, remember when the Obama administration got in a bunch of hot water for drone striking that wedding? That's just daily shit to Israel. Like, it was bad when Obama did it. It led to a lot of blowback. But like, you know, like I'm not saying it ruined his career or whatever. I'm just saying like it was something for the IDF. Like that's daily shit.
Has published long lists of names where you have the ID number, their names. Detailed lists have been published documenting who has been killed inside the Gaza Strip.
It may have been a Freudian slip and he meant to say civilian casualty. I think that if that was the case, though, he would have said terrorist casualty. He said civilian combatant or terrorist. If he had said civilian combatant or terrorist casualty, then maybe like he mixed up combatant and casualty, but the word combatant hadn't even been used recently, again, unless it was part of a section that hadn't been clipped in. It makes me think that that was just the term they used, civilian combatant, you know?
During this war. You claim you've killed 13,000 Hamas fighters, yet you haven't produced any lists whatsoever. No documentation. It's a number you're giving the world.
It's a number which our army has given to us.
By the way, just so you guys know, it would not be impossible for the IDF to actually make lists of the terrorists they kill, in the same way the Gaza Health Ministry was able to obtain names and ID numbers for the many, many people, the civilians, who were killed by Israel. The IDF, when engaging in combat with a terrorist, could shoot them, and then, you know, engage in the grim work of identifying the corpse, which is something that can be done in many cases. Did he just admit the army has no oversight? Yeah, I love the idea that the military just gets to dictate that.
In a democratic country, with checks and balances, with media scrutiny, with all the Western values that Norway holds dear or should hold dear.
But Mr. Mensur, I ask you again, where is the concrete proof that you've killed 13,000 fighters?
This isn't a bad question to ask. If you ask the U.S. military how we distinguish between civilian casualties or Taliban combatants back in like our occupation of Afghanistan, like, I'm not saying that we were good. All I'm saying is that that's at the very least a conversation that could be had. Whereas again, in Israel, whatever the IDF says goes. Like no, that's it. Now, whatever we say. 50 squadrillion Hamas slings, 5-year-old Hamas babies, you know, Hamas base in your skull.
Okay, you claim it, but where is the proof? At least Hamas's health ministry has published lists confirming who has died several times.
I wouldn't take Hamas's word for anything, literally anything.
So we shouldn't believe Hamas, we shouldn't believe the UN, the World Health Organizations, all the aid groups.
Well, the UN
on the
is
ground,
Hamas.
Rights groups from all over the world. We shouldn't believe them, we should believe the Israeli government.
You'll excuse me if I feel extremely skeptical about almost anything which comes out of the United Nations.
Man, it sure is so cool how Israel has basically given up on the concept of international diplomacy and has accepted that they're so evil that everyone hates them. And, you know, like that's so great. I love how America protects them for that, you know?
We are a proud member of the United Nations. Our officials express our beliefs in the United Nations, and we defend ourselves as is the right thing to do.
Okay. I wish that wasn't clipped so much, but it was still pretty fun to go over. Nice. Israel has to be a pariah state after this. It kind of is to a large extent.